is pretty much the way we've done them in the past, which if you've been here, you'll recognize it. If not, you'll get to know it. We have we have our candidates up here. David is one, and he's setting up the video.
Oh.
So he will join us.
Okay,
and in the
sorry.
interim, we're going to draw lots to see who speaks first. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to make their case, and that will be followed by questions for that candidate. And then the next candidate will present. So we'll have specific, so just draw one, draw a number. Gail?
Oops, I got two.
Oh, no, that can be Gail's. Or not.
I should pick my own.
Yes, you should. Oh, all right. That would have been the same. I looked at that as much. Okay, so we have Craig, number 3, Cody's number 4, Jim Blair is number 1, 2. Okay, Gail Lichtenthal is number 2.
5.
Larry Hinkle is number 5. So,
She was just saying who was going to
Pick a number.
No, that's not.
The green bag. Oh, good thought. First of all, everybody silence your cell phones, please.
Can you speak up, please?
I can't.
For old people?
I got mine in.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me introduce the election board. The presiding judge is Blair, and the assistant judge is James Barrett. And we have Blair there with a hat. Cindy Hollenberg is also on the election board, but she, bless her heart, has just left for vacation. So, and then I'm on it too, Suzanne Guy. And so, if everybody's more or less settled, we will begin with number 1, Jim Blair, who is currently on the assembly, so he's running for re-election. It's all yours.
Hi. Now everybody can hear me, I think. So, I'm not sure where to start. Been in Cochiti for 5 years. A lot of you know that we travel periodically. We're gone a couple months out of the year at different times. But in the last 2 years that I've been on the board, I have not missed an assembly meeting. I've been able to dial in even if on vacation, so that's not an issue. But what it really boils down to is I've got a lot of experience in senior management. I've helped run very large businesses, and I kind of break things down into 3 levels. First thing I always look for is ability. It's not what you know, it's what you got the ability to learn. There's a lot to learn out here, a lot to learn how the town runs, a lot to learn how to work with the Pueblo, so it's really about what you can learn, not what you know. Second point is professionalism. You got to know when to speak up, when to shut up, when to pound your fist on the table, when to be polite. You got to be able to dress the part. I mean, we work with legislatures, we work with the Pueblo, we work with townspeople, and it's a different scene everywhere. The third thing that I look at is enthusiasm. My God, I love this town. We stumbled on this by total accident, and within about 2 days decided we were buying and moving out here, and we've been here 5 years. So I've got a lot of enthusiasm for this town, for what's going on, and I really like being part of the board, to know how things are working, how I can put in my input, how I can give it my sense of specialty, whatever that may be, and be able to help out in that kind of a way. So that's my 2 minutes.
Okay, questions for Jim? Oh. I'm sorry, who has questions? Are there any questions for Jim at this time?
Somebody had asked what your name is too, so.
Jim Blair.
Jim Blair.
I think we got it now.
Yeah. You may or may not read my printing, but that's my best since I quit doing all my stuff on the computer. Okay, so up next would be Gail Lichtenthal.
Okay, hi, I'm Gail Lichtenthal. I moved here from Connecticut about 4 years ago, a little over 4 years I've been here. I love the changes I've seen in the town recently. In the last years, when I came here, the town was not running the way it's running now. And I would like to see the changes continue. So I decided to try to run to see if I could help. I'm very good at compromise, you know. I'm very quick to learn things. I have not been in this kind of government stuff before, although I've worked for the government forever, so my whole career, I know how it works. I was a nurse, so I've done management, not as a nurse, but I was a head nurse and I was also a nurse manager. But that's all I have to say. I love this place. I'd like to see it stay like it is and continue to, you know, get better. And that's my 2 minutes.
So, question for Gail.
Yeah, what changes do you feel that were not being done before that you want, what changes do you want to see
What changes do I want to see?
from the last assembly membership?
Well, smoothness in the way that things go. There's a lot of, I guess it's not an easy thing to say, but there seems to be some infighting in the current assembly. So it stops getting things done. You know, if people are so busy concentrating on infighting, how is anything going to get done?
Sounds like the national politics.
Yeah, that too, right? But, you know, for changes, you know, everybody wants the stop signs up. That'll be coming along soon. You know, I like the way the roads have been done. I love the way the place looks. The park is gorgeous. There's been a lot of changes since I've been here in 4 years. And I just want to see them keep going.
Anybody else have a question for Gail? You're holding it for later, I think. Okay. Thank you. David. David Craig, most of you know, I think.
I have a few notes. I always like to write notes. I think it helps. Good evening, everyone. My name is David Craig. I've been a resident in Cochiti-Lake since 2005. And I'd like to share with you my thoughts about how I may benefit the town and you. First of all, I'd like to help improve the town communication with residents by providing more town materials on Facebook so people can see what the town has been doing and what the town plans to do. Also attended assembly meetings over the years. Frankly, I've been, I think most of the time, the only one. So that's kind of a hint that maybe others may want to attend. They have, for the most part, some interesting stuff, and sometimes some things not so interesting. But please attend. I mean, you've got 25 people here, I'm guessing. That's probably more than 2 or 3 years of assembly meetings. Also, I record the town assembly meetings, and I do put them on YouTube. I think that's beneficial so people can actually see what the assembly members are saying and doing. Because sometimes, I think, in Don Topper, his, I think they call it the mayor comments, are very, very interesting. And for the most part, those only end up being known from the assembly meetings, which is, you know, could be improved. Also, I think having a town newsletter that's put out, for example, quarterly, would be useful to people. That would give people an idea of what, what's been happening in the town, what the town's working on, and it just gives you a better overall feel for your town, as Gail said, seeing things, knowing about things is beneficial. And I think those any materials from the assembly meetings and also quarterly newsletters, put them on the internet, put them on the Facebook page. And also for people who don't have internet access or poor internet access, send out a paper copy. Also, I'm the chair of the zoning board, and our main, I mentioned that because our main purpose is to inform residents of what some of the town restrictions are, such as animal control. And also, we also try and get residents to talk to each other first. Some don't want to talk, but a lot of times people do talk, and they kind of resolve their problems, which is good.
David?
Yeah.
You're running out of your 2 minutes.
Okay, also help relocate rattlesnakes. Just a few quick comments. So I ask that you please consider me for a position on your assembly. I will work with the assembly members, and I will compromise. If you don't, frankly, you might as well not be there, because you're not going to do anything. And I will listen to your ideas and concerns, and try and help the assembly address those. So I also want to thank all the candidates for volunteering, all of you. And it's going to be good or bad. You'll have to decide whether your volunteering is going to be good or bad. And so thank you for your time.
Okay, David. Questions for David? Whoa, okay.
David, do you propose a sheet that lists the zoning restrictions? Because that would be very helpful.
We have some things already that have gone up, and there have been some postings, but we also have a website that has all of those. But I think with the zoning board, we can improve on that to make certain we understand clearly. Because there's, for example, a zoning ordinance, but no one wants to read, I don't know what it is, 50 pages, 60 pages, I mean,
That's a lot of pages.
exactly. And a consolidated summary of the key points to it are what's needed. And we put the stuff out like that before, like we put out a page on animal control. And there's some restrictions on structures, like if you want to build a shed, you really have to talk to the zoning board to see what their...
Suppose you wanted to decorate your garage door.
That would be a question to pose to David as head of the zoning board,
Yeah.
not in this format.
So yeah, the zoning board can provide a summary, and I'll put that down as something that we need to do.
Okay, are there other questions?
David, could you post a link to the meeting recordings that you have on YouTube? Post a YouTube link on this one.
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
This might be 2 questions. You mentioned maybe mailing information for people who don't go on YouTube or Facebook. And my second question is, if you were to be elected to the assembly, would you still be the person with the zoning? Thank you.
Yes to your first question, and second, yes. I mean, for example, Jim Blair is on the zoning board. and
So
he's
you
a member of the
still
assembly.
Was.
be with the
Was.
zoning
Correct.
board?
She's in there. Yeah, so I
Still
don't
be
think there's any
the zoning board
restriction.
and on the assembly. Would you think that was a conflict of interest?
I would say in general, no, but if there was something that was a conflict of interest, I would just not be, I would not interact with it on the assembly.
And there's another member of the assembly, also Tricia Huddleston is on the zoning board.
Thank you, Heather.
Does anyone else have questions for David? Okay, moving right along.
I can't count.
I think it's your turn. Tony, DaSilva.
Yours truly takes his time getting up.
I understand.
Welcome to the club.
Is your name Biden?
Pardon? My name's Tony DaSilva. I've been here since 2004. Shortly after I got here, I was approached to fill a position of someone who had been on the assemblies and had left. So I did fill that position, and then the following year, I ran for office and was elected. And 4 years after that, I said, no way in hell am I going to do this again. And now here I am, right? Anywho, as far as the, like I said, I'm also on the library board. And I find that to be a very interesting and meaningful position as well. In regard to the question as to whether or not there is a conflict of interest, I did think about that, obviously. If there's anything dealing with the library that requires a vote, I would have to recuse myself. It's that simple. Okay, in terms of background, I've worked in New York City and New York State for a little over 30 years. I was in law enforcement there, I was parole, and I realized as I went further up the ladder, I was meeting criminals that were much worse than the ones I was supervising, because I dealt with the politicians at that point, and it was kind of interesting. What I would like, one of the reasons I'm running again, there are a couple of things I would like to be able to do for the town, and I really can't do it as part of the library board or just as a citizen. I had been talking with a number of people, and we have a great group of volunteers who helps older folks, and I'm beginning to think I'm one of them. I'm not quite sure about that part yet. Anyhow, but folks who need someone to take them to pick up groceries, for example, or go to a doctor. It's done on a volunteer basis, and I would like to think that if we could do this on something that the town could set up. I know I haven't talked to you about this, Don. Well, you know, something where something is set up, so if folks need to go in to pick up food or go to the doctor, there'll be something available for them to do that the town might be able to provide. And I was also thinking about whether or not we can have medical people maybe come out here once a week, maybe once a month, to see some of the folks who are here, instead of the folks having to go out there. That's where we're at. Any questions?
Doesn't this community center offer those services now?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Doesn't this community center offer those services now?
You know, they offer some of the services,
They'll
yes.
take people in a van and they take them to the doctor.
Right, I was thinking about it more for within our own town, but if we can do that here instead,
Well, you
that's fine.
can, yeah.
You can.
Yeah.
It's true, but Tony, it's a really good point, and it's something we should emphasize, because we have a couple of people from Cochiti-Lake that volunteer. We always need more volunteers to help with those commutes, to people to shop, to get their prescriptions, to visit the doctor. It's a pretty valuable service. Because it's not like you can get Uber out here.
Anything else for Tony?
May I ask a question?
No.
It's a good question.
You sure?
Sure.
All right, you're taping this, aren't you?
Except for what I say. That's a joke.
Okay.
I don't know how to do that. The town the town fire department used to have kind of a checkup service for residents. People would come in and have a blood pressure check, heart rate, and all that, you know, simple stuff. So is that something that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds great.
The town used to have, the fire department would come and check for gas leaks, you know, safety things. other than just a personal, illness or whatnot, but they were available to check our homes to see when we turn our furnace if working correctly, if there's any gas leaks. That's very helpful.
Yeah, and also some way that, especially for older folks, that they have some kind of a system where somebody checks in on them frequently. And that could be done by the town, it could be done by volunteers, or something be set up for that purpose.
Any other questions for Tony? In case, last but not least,
Hi, I'm Larry Hinkle. I've been in Cochiti 2.5 years. I'm a rookie. Suzanne and I moved here from Tulsa, Oklahoma, actually Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. We kind of discovered Cochiti-Lake by accident, kind of like Jim, and we feel very fortunate to be here. I spent my career as an executive in retailing. I retired from Macy's East. I was in Massachusetts at the time, and then we moved back to Oklahoma. During my working career, I did not volunteer much. We raised kids, I worked, I didn't seem to have time to volunteer. When we got to Oklahoma, I didn't know how to say no. So I ended up on the HOA, and our HOA we had 328 homes. For 13 years, I was on the HOA. Various positions, president, treasurer, vice president. We didn't call it zoning, we called it an architectural committee. So I did that. I also was on the board and president of a nonprofit for 6 years, where we had a medical facility, education, and a food pantry. And lastly, I was on the board for 6 years at our church, which, if anybody's Presbyterian, would know that elders are on session, which is like a board. So I did that for 6 years and was also treasurer. So I bring experience to Cochiti-Lake. The thing I would like to see is feedback from the community. When I first got here, it was kind of like, when I talked to people, they didn't want my input, and I want input. So thank you.
Okay, questions for Larry? Got some Oklahoma roots around here, don't we? Okay, let's move to a broader perspective and see if any of you have thought of any questions that you'd like to ask in general, or anyone in specific.
Yes. David mentioned this, and I think all of us know, some people don't even know how to use computers and communication. And I see that there are a lot of positive aspects as far as volunteers in the community. I mean, there are many, many volunteers that people aren't aware of. I mean, you need a tree limb cut or something. There's a network of people that handle all this. And I see a problem. I work in communications. What David says is that there should be, it's difficult for people that don't get Netflix or Facebook or use a computer. A lot of them is because they don't know how. That I think that to better the communication in the community, there has to be a way where everyone is reached. And everyone, whether they're a minority, a disabled person, a deaf person, is not computer literate or don't have a computer.
So
there
what's your
should.
question?
My question is, I would like to see members of the assembly or someone who is running for the assembly to be willing to spearhead or bring up discussions on how we can better communicate within the community.
And that is the 8-0 question in Cochiti-Lake, having been here for 13 years now.
And we can post things up in the mailroom all you want, but you don't go to the mailroom either. Yeah, I mean, I work in a lot of places that communication, unless, you can't bring a horse to water kind of thing. You can't always hand it to them, because you take it and hand it to them. So it's a hard thing, communication's hard, because we have so many generational things.
It is hard. The other thing I'd ask about is, there used to be a welcome packet,
There used to be.
and that was good, and
That was
reaches
supposed to be
people.
here when I moved here.
Yeah, well, some
Nobody
came
ever
to my door. Jackie, you may have been one.
I think COVID stopped it for a while.
COVID shut down a lot of things. One of the things that was happening, Mary Baderick, our librarian, was offering training to people on the computer, how to use them and the whole business. I don't know where that is now, but we've got the perfect setup with the library, and we've got state-of-the-art computers, and now that we're not all wearing our masks, I'm an in and outer. But I wanted to be sure that everybody here knows that Town Plaza is on the assembly. And of course, Don Topper in the back is our mayor. Bill Riker is an outgoing member who has served on any number of volunteer committees. We shared a lot of different volunteer roles. Who am I missing? And Pat, of course, Pat. Sorry.
You mentioned me before, so.
Yeah, anyway. So those are the assembly members who are here. Did I miss anybody?
Me.
Oh, God. I already said that you were already on the assembly. Yes.
Let me speak to that too, since I'm on the assembly. One of the reasons I got on the zoning board and then wanted to get on the assembly is because I wasn't hearing what was going on as much as I tried. And I do internet, I do all that kind of stuff. I go to the mailroom and see what's up down there. And there still was not enough information flowing about what's happening. What I've seen in the last couple of years with the videotaping of the assembly meetings and that being public out there. Yes, it's electronic, yes, it's YouTube, yes, it's on the internet. But again, Mary can teach anybody how to use that and see what those are. My opinion is everybody should have some sort of electronic capability. And we just need to make sure we can reach those capabilities. If you're not electronically up to speed at all, then you need to have somebody else that you can rely on to get you that information.
I have a question on the present people on the committee, or on the assembly. How many years are you still committed to that? Plus, if you get reelected, will you get forever or what?
I'm done this month.
You're what?
I took over for Jim Lane's position after he passed away.
Right.
That term ends May,
This year?
this year, as
Oh,
in
I
this
see.
month. And then the new term runs forward, and I'm
4 years. Okay, then Pam is, how many?
I have two more years.
Okay, and Bill's not going to be.
And Don and I are equal.
I'm up for parole in 2
Pam
years.
Yes, 2 years. Oh, okay, all right. So literally, we had 3 new people.
there'll be 3 new people.
Yeah.
No, there'll be
Two.
Two, that's right, 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You have a question?
I was just curious as to how many years everybody had left.
We've had a lot of losses. I keep dying, it's really annoying. I'm sorry, I'll get to you.
So there's a problem with knowledge of electronics, but there's also a problem in Cochiti-Lake with Wi-Fi and connectivity. What can the assembly do? And if not the assembly, who addresses it?
As far as the
And this is, I'm asking actually all of you.
That also is the ongoing question.
Stephan,
Don, would you
I've
like
had
to-
3 meetings with the state director of profit. don't expect much. I mean, there are services out there that are good. If you're on CenturyLink, then you get what you deserve. I mean, there's no one worse. We're right now we just got an agreement with the county to get this facility off CenturyLink and move over to Starlink. So there are services out there that are better, but as far as the state stepping in and providing something, don't hold your breath.
The joy of rural communities throughout the state, not just us. But we've got up and down, so there are low spots that are not in line of anything to any of the providers. And Starlink at least is satellite, which we finally changed to. And so far, it's been really good. But wish we had something for everybody. Anyway, but people are still working on it. It's just, again, but it really well, don't hold your breath. Right. So, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to ask, I didn't hear, what is the term of the people that are going to be the newly elected? What is
4 years.
4 years, thank you.
Couldn't the minutes from each assembly meeting just be posted in the mail?
She was asking about posting the minutes of the meetings in the mail room.
We don't post the minutes in the mail room, but if anyone wants a copy, they're welcome to come get it.
And they're on the website.
Why couldn't you just post it in the mail room?
They're not, we haven't been posting the minutes on the website either.
Oh, pardon me.
Because it has always been the standard, if you want a copy, just come by and get one.
Couldn't you tag it in the mail room?
Well, we normally don't, but I will certainly
It can be.
look at that,
changed.
sure.
Yeah.
One of the things that most people don't understand is we have 2 very part-time staff members. Their hours were cut, 2 years ago? Because we lost some funding from the state, thanks to some help from some of our neighbors. We've about got it back, but we have a part-time treasurer, Marcia. We have a part-time administrator, Dolly. They work for, 20 hours?
25 hours a week.
25 hours a week, Monday through Thursday. And to say that that's what they're paid for, Monday through Thursday. There is nothing working on the weekends because we don't have anybody hired to work on the weekends. We used to have 3 more than part-time staff members. We had a town clerk, which is a requirement from the charter. Thank you. We are meant to have a town clerk, and a town treasurer, and a town administrator. We do not have officially a town clerk. Dolly gets to fill in when stuff has to happen, like she's here now. She don't get paid extra for that. She's doing more or less 2 jobs. And I mention this because, all the good ideas about, gee, if we had a newsletter and we could post more stuff, and one of the issues is not an unwillingness to do it. There's no time with the available staff. And that's just the fact of it. It's not a secret, but I think you should consider when you want all, more. Okay, who writes the newsletter? Dolly, usually. And Marcia did the last one. That's not in her job description either. So all I'm saying is, take a deep breath. There's some things that seem like they should be just easy, but they take time. So I say this as a former assembly member and as mayor. I've been here 13 years, we've been through a bunch of stuff. And things are much better than they were because we've gotten our funding. Thanks to Don and the people that are working with the legislators, relationships have been established. We're getting money from the state again, from the county. This is new. And thank God for that, but it's not solving our staffing issue. And I just want to commend both Dolly and Marcia for pitching in as needed. Dolly's often here when she's not being paid. This should stop. I'm telling her that. Marcia's much better about.
Marcia does it too.
Well, no, I know she
puts in
does.
her time.
So anyway, this is just a pitch for giving the staff a break every now and then, because not everybody does. People come in and scream at them, if you can imagine, and it's unacceptable. So it's just my little plea: please be nice, and if you can do it yourself, go for it. Also, we need volunteers. Not only for the library, but we need volunteers who can be productive in any number of ways. We've got volunteers working in the Memorial Park again. That's something Bill and I used to do together. And we need them for the election. It's coming. Yes, that's where I was going. That's where I was going.
Poll workers.
Poll workers and
2-hour
for
shifts.
the election.
You get to meet everybody in town. It's really fun.
Well, it is.
Please step up.
And so anyone who's
How do you
willing
sign
to
up?
pitch in a couple of hours,
This gentleman right here.
shifts,
Contact
please
me.
let James know, because he's pulling the
And I'll be here for people to give
Right.
my number out to you all.
So it doesn't have to be it's not a long-term commitment. It's a couple of hours here or there. But we have the polls open 12 hours on that day. And then that's before they close and we count the ballots. And so anyway, anyone who wants to help in a fairly restricted time period would be much appreciated. So I think that probably,
I just want to add, now that the pandemic is over, and we have a place to meet, and everything, I think the new assembly should really do a good PR effort to let the town know that they exist and we exist, and that there are meetings once a month. And I remember that, I think it was quarterly or maybe
we used to have
more
town hall
frequently, the
meetings.
people who were in charge of certain committees, like zoning, or library, or the fire department, or whatever committee that's benefiting the town, would give a report at the assembly meeting. That's a good way to communicate what's going on.
Actually, those were town hall meetings.
Yeah, the town hall meeting, yes.
And they were separate from the assembly meetings. We usually had a potluck dinner, and people would gather and we would all food each other. The pandemic pretty much shut that down. But that doesn't mean we can't have town meetings. We just need volunteers to help do that.
Would it be a good time to give a timeline for the absentee things and the timeline for the election?
Sure.
and everything?
Well, Cindy, do you want to give an update on the timelines for the election things?
Absentee ballots and all that
Oh.
stuff. Well, this is the meet and greet, and coming up this week, the absentee ballots will be available starting on the 22nd, which is.
You can request them, but they can't be mailed out.
Oh, I'm sorry, right. Well, you can request them, but because we have a write-in deadline that is not until the end of the month, then you can pick up your ballot, or you leave a self-stamped addressed envelope with Dolly, and she will mail it to you.
But they can't be mailed till 31st is the first.
Right.
The 31st, and that is because we must adhere, and we are stringently adhering to the election ordinance. And so in order for it to have enough time
after the final day for candidates to announce and for the election board to verify, which they did, then we still have to have 2 weeks prior to election that people can write in as a candidate. So I can't release ballots until I know who the write-ins are gonna be to put on the ballot.
When is the election?
It is the
June 13th.
13th of June, the second Tuesday in
It
June.
will be.
It will be at the library,
Where will it take place?
the library
At the library.
in Cochiti-Lake. Yes, sir.
If you voted in the last election, do you have to re-enroll, or?
Are you talking about the
automatically-
Cochiti-Lake?
Yeah, the Cochiti-Lake,
You
yeah,
should be registered.
okay.
But if anyone has a question, just call me or.
Yes.
No, I didn't have a question, but I was just gonna comment this.
How do we make sure we're registered?
You can come down to Town Hall on Monday through Thursday from 9 to 3 and talk to Dolly
To register to vote.
to register to vote. Uh-huh.
Or to verify the fact that you're still registered.
Yeah.
To verify.
There.
Not everybody who's eligible to vote.
Yeah.
And,
I would just like to request that also be put on next door.
no,
No.
because next door is not a communication that the town uses. I'm sorry. There's too much information that gets posted that's incorrect, and people get really riled up when something is corrected to be right. So it is just determined that you can either call Town Hall, you can come down to Town Hall, but we're not using next door for any type of voting.
I mean, but I'm talking about the announcement for the day of the election, there wasn't election.
Because Diane, next door is not an official mechanism. It's posted under class. I've posted it 3 times already on Facebook. It is in the town hall on the bulletin board. It's in the library, in 2 places in the library. So if people, I'm sorry, but if people can't see it from all those sources, there's something wrong with looking. And so,
I'm sorry too, but I'm asking, why can't the election board make the post?
Next door is not used for political purposes. That's on the guidelines for next. Yes, it is. It's an election board notice.
It's an election.
And next door has it posted for their policy. It's not used for political purposes.
Oh, I understand that, I mean, it's not supposed to be used for that. But, okay, I'm just
Thank you.
questioning. I have a question.
And Cindy, if you voted last year, someone asked a question, and you voted the year before, and the year, is there any incident that anything would happen in the community that you cannot assume, if you're a resident, that you're already registered? Unless you moved away. No, okay, so I have no idea. I don't even know what you're asking, I'm sorry.
Depends if you're talking about town elections.
Town elections, you can assume that if nothing has changed and you have voted at one time, that you are still registered. There's never going to be, they're going to update something. We're not going to dump the register, no. If you can just assume.
The only way that anyone gets removed from the voting is if they're deceased, and we know for certain they are.
Right.
Okay, then they are, or if they have moved away, and we know for certain they've sold their home and they're no longer living there, or they're no longer renting. That's the only time
Or
anybody's
they
paying.
become
But,
ineligible.
it's always a good thing. I've had a lot of people check with me recently and said, hey, I just can't remember, am I still there? And I can tell
Well,
them in
Cindy
2
just said
seconds.
you can't vote if you become ineligible. Okay, how do you become ineligible if you're still resident?
Well, if you no longer live here.
Is that if you do your taxes or anything?
If you are no longer eligible to vote in the 3rd Congressional District.
So for example, if somebody is a dual resident, they live here part-time and they live in Colorado, but they do all their political voting in Colorado, they're not eligible to vote here.
Okay, so that is another thing, that's okay.
Yeah, that's always been. But, and you know, we have got people that do that, but, and then tell me, oh, I can't vote in town because I vote somewhere else. I'm not eligible to vote same place.
So, Maureen.
I just have a comment. Maureen Johnson, I moved here in '97. I hope that anyone running and anyone on assembly is open to diversification. I heard Gail refer to that she heard there was dissension within the assembly. That's not a bad thing to disagree. I hope that all issues will come before assembly as they have not always in the past. And a vote of majority should rule, and no one should be looked down upon because they're in the majority or the minority. Discussion should be healthy. Disagreement should be healthy. Decisions should be by majority. Anyone who wants to socialize in Cochiti-Lake should separate that from assembly. It should not be a social organization. And someone who disagrees with the vote and wants to let the people know why that happened should be supported in the sense of we all have a right to have an opinion. When we ask a question at town hall, it should be accepted as a question, not as a criticism, but just as a question, a request. It should be honored as such. I'm hoping that all of you will adhere.
I'm standing up because I've been advised that we have to leave this facility because somebody is here
Yes,
and
has to
can't
go
leave
home.
it and
Right.
goes up until Tuesday, which does not mean that conversations can't continue outside.
Right.
And hopefully, Pam, did you want to say anything about Memorial Day?
Oh, we got stuff happening on Memorial Day.
Yes.
Okay, all right, we're gonna be having a Memorial Day picnic on the lawn of Town-Cochiti-Lake. I got my full-time job back at Brookdale, and Brookdale likes to give, and they're giving the food. So it's hamburgers, hot dogs, chips, drinks, and a dessert. And it's sponsored, and it's gonna benefit the Akira School. So anything that comes from that will go to them. So I put it out for $5. It's gonna be easy. There's not a lot. It's gonna be not a lot of utensils. You just pick up either a hot dog or hamburger, or chips, and a drink and a dessert for $5. And hopefully we get enough people out so that we can build some supplies for the school. But it's nice that it's a big organization. They like to give back, and they want to see us out in the community doing things, so. Memorial Day, Monday, Memorial Day from 11 to 3.
How is it gonna be announced to the town?
We put it on it's already in the mail room, and then I will announce it on Facebook, and then if anybody wants to snap it and put it on next door, you can.
Thank you all for coming. Dolly,
You can if you want to do your own picnic outside, you can.
we are now officially volunteer. Yeah, volunteer. Serve in the election. The election.